Before we hop into all this new information for Fallout 76, we are almost to the next 100 milestone, one step closer to 10,000 subscribers. So if you guys are new, I'd really appreciate the subscribe. Alright YouTube, so today Gameinformer dropped an article on Fallout 76. It's actually pretty lengthy, and I wanted to look over it and, obviously get any new information that we can from it. Now initially when I started reading it, I was kind of disappointed because it seemed like they were just reiterating stuff we've already heard before, but there's actually quite a bit of new information here. So we're just going to go over the information in order as it appears in the article, so let's just get right into it. For starters, we learned that the Overseer is actually a person. A lot of people seem to think that because we hear like the recording in Vault 76 that it was like the Overseer was a robot or something like that. But we actually got confirmation that it is an actual person, and she left Vault 76 before everybody else did. So maybe that's what the main quest line is once we get the transmission from her. Maybe we're trying to track her down and find her, I don't know. Continuing on with quest-related things, we've known that we can get quests from terminals, notes, holotapes, robots, NPCs, whatever, but we also can get quests just by walking near a location. The example they give is that you might walk near like a mine and you'll get a quest that just says, explore this mine. Not a super riveting quest line, obviously, but that's still kind of cool, and I think they've touched on this before. They've kind of discussed in the past about found world quests. They talk about the perk system, which most of the information they talk about we already known, but they actually touched on adding more perk cards with add-ons and DLC and expansions and stuff like that, which is pretty cool because they couldn't really do that, as Todd Howard mentions, with Fallout 4 and Skyrim. The way their perk and skill system worked, you couldn't really add more perks with add-ons or DLC. They did a little bit with Fallout 4, they just add like extra ranks to some of the perks. But with this new perk card system, they can add kind of limitless amount of perk cards if they want to, and they also touch on themed perks. Don't exactly know what that means. We also learned some information about the events in the game, which are similar to most other multiplayer games that have events. They're timed multiplayer quests. They'll pop up on your map or when you're near one, and it'll be like, hey, come over here and escort these robots, as an example that they give. We also know that they can be randomly generated at multiple different locations, and there are some events that take place in specific locations on the map. They did also mention that the events are meant to be played multiplayer, like in a team or with other players in general. They say they can't really be completed solo. I hope that's not the case for all of them. Something kind of cool that we learned when it comes to being in a group of other players is that you can actually fast travel to your other teammates. This can be useful if you join, like, say, your friend's world. I don't know if you accept a game invite, you might spawn in near them. But let's say that's not the case. Once you spawn into your friend's world, y'all can send a group invite, join their group, and then you can just fast travel to them, or they can fast travel to you. Pretty cool. Some very interesting information we learned about grouping together is that the first person to, I guess, enter an area or a zone sets the level of the enemy. So this can be useful. For one, if you're a higher level player and you can handle the enemies at your level pretty easily, you can have your friend join you, help them gain some levels rapidly. And also on the flip side of things, if your friend's a lower level player but he's struggling with some areas or some quests, you can go join them, let them set the level of the enemies, and then you can just walk through there. Now, areas and enemies will have their set levels. You can't just have like a level 5 dude walk up to a Scorch Beast and everybody's fighting a level 5 Scorch Beast. You'll still have a set level, and also the zones will still have higher level enemies if it's a higher level zone, but you kind of get what they mean. In this part of the interview, they're just talking about the players, grouping together, 4 players to a squad, but Chris Meyer actually outright says we have 24 players on one server on a map that's 4 times the size of Fallout 4. So I think this kind of confirms that they've finally set in stone that it's 24 players to a server, because we've always heard the 24 to 32, but this is the first time that I can recall of them just saying 24. So I think that's going to be the set number per lobby, per server, whatever. So in this part, I guess the interviewer asked Todd Howard, is there a chance you can join a faction that may support a larger number of people? And Todd Howard replies with, we'll answer that later. So it looks like we might at some point actually be able to make guilds and have bigger teams than just 4 players. Like you could probably, all 24 people in the lobby could potentially group together and go around questing and things. This could be fun, obviously, for role-playing, because you could call yourself the Enclave, you could be the Brother to Steel, you could be the Minutemen, or just be a new faction altogether. This part of the interview, they're talking about the PvP, the bounty and wanted system, and they touch on, during group events, PvP is turned off completely, because everybody's grouping together to try to fight whatever the event is, the big monster. They didn't want stray bullets hitting other players and kind of forcing and initiating PvP. So this is really good information. So this means that you can't even have a guy trying to grief or mess with you or troll you during an event, because PvP is turned off completely. You can't even do like the little bitty slap damage or whatever. We know that we can gather resources in the game, but it turns out you can actually build machinery to help you. The example they give is you might find a deposit of aluminum, and you could build whatever the machinery would be, and I guess it will automatically mine that resource for you. That's pretty interesting. That means we don't have to walk out to the wasteland and constantly gather resources by hand all the time. We can actually, if we find a pretty big deposit, we can build machinery that can help us. When talking about camps and bases, they mentioned that your people in your team can actually help you build your base, which is kind of crazy because we knew that in like the public zones, public settlements, we could build with each other, but it seems like you can actually have one of your squad members actually help build within your settlement. They also say that you can connect your settlements, but I don't know how literal that is because the example they give below says where a dozen people built their camps next to each other. So again, I don't know how literal it is that you can connect them. Maybe they just mean side by side. We also learned that when it comes to other players' settlements or camps, you can actually steal resources from each other. They specify that it's only stuff that regenerates and that you still can't steal from other stashes. But stashes are specifically loot containers or whatever that are spread out all over the map and within your camp where people can't steal from that. So I'm still wondering if I put something into a dresser or a toolbox or a generic metal box, can you take the item out of that? I don't know if this actually answers that or not. You guys tell me what you think. We also learned in Fallout 76, if you run out of fusion cores for your power armor, you don't actually have to step out of it and just leave it there. You can actually pick it up like an item and put it into your inventory. It's obviously immersion breaking, but I still don't care. If I find a badass suit of power armor, I don't have to leave it behind if I don't have fusion cores, so that's kind of cool. And the last takeaway from this Gameinformer article is that the game is pretty much done as of them writing this article out. The game's pretty much done and they're just messing with the bugs and exploits now. So that's kind of good to know. We still have a month or so until the beta and the game's pretty much done, so they're just messing with all the little bugs and exploits. That's really good information to know because that's something we were kind of worried about. I'm still going to be worried about the game once the beta drops, but still. And that's all the new information, at least that I could find in this Gameinformer article. There may be some things that I missed, but I'm pretty sure I touched on everything that was new. I tried to do the video as fast as I possibly could for you guys so I can get the video out as fast as possible. Which is why there's not a ton of gameplay in this video, because that would make the upload time a lot longer. So as usual guys, let me know your thoughts below on all this information we just got for Fallout 76. I didn't even know this was going to happen today. I wasn't even planning on putting out a Fallout 76 video or even a video at all today, but this came up in my newsfeed on Twitter and you knew I had to talk about it. Hopefully you guys went on to enjoy the video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, turn on notifications, follow me on Twitter at TheDashingDavid, and my Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later guys.
Give me forever for a while, give me forever for a while, quit acting like